What's up, everybody? It's Brian and Freddie, and we're back. It's been about a little 2 week hiatus. I went on vacation. It was amazing with California, but happy to be back and happy to see you, Freddie. Because in case y'all didn't know, I live 45 minutes from Freddie, but I never see him because he just always backs out on every plan I make.
Oh, all right, buddy. All right. You know what? I'm not gonna even say anything. It's fine. It's fine. Um, yeah, it's been a while, but we
It has, and
there's
we have a lot. We have a lot. So what we think we're gonna do is we'll hit on some things that have already kind of happened and ended, and then we'll go right into stuff that's current. So I won't waste any time because I think this is actually going to be really long. For everyone who is still listening and still hanging out, make sure you guys follow us. We are on Spotify. I've had some people ask me on YouTube and other Discords, like, are you also on Spotify? We are. The link is in the description if you're watching on YouTube, and if you're on Spotify already, you don't need me to tell you to click a link because you're already here. So make sure you guys are liking,
sir.
subscribing, following, and follow my Twitter, Freddie's Twitter, or Spotify, so you can get all the action where the action is when the action hits. No dating apps, just straight to the action. Yeah.
You're such a weirdo.
All right, I know. All right, let's just roll this intro and then let's get right into it. Okay. All right, we're back. 2 weeks have passed since last we have spoke over the interwebs. I think it would be advisable of us to just open with your thoughts on the Helldiver situation, because I thought that was hilarious.
I mean, I think this is going to be an ongoing issue for Sony. You know, People want to play their games, especially on PC, and PSN is not available. In other 100 and something like
So
170.
it's either
or whatever it is.
170 or 125, but either way, it's over
Whatever.
100.
Yeah, and so but Steam is so it's weird.
I don't actually
right?
understand that either. Does that mean like? Well, by the way, in case you have, I guess, been living under a rock, Helldivers is a huge game, and Sony decided well, I guess it's not willy-nilly. Supposedly, it was just always in there. But either way, they randomly decided that, like, if you wanted to keep playing the game and you were on PC, you needed to make a PlayStation Network account, which probably takes like maybe 5 minutes to do. But that's besides the point. A lot of people just don't want to sign up for a PlayStation Network account when they have Steam and they never intend on ever playing a PlayStation or buying a PlayStation. So that caused a lot of discourse, a ton of bad reviews, and then
Hundreds of
yeah, I mean,
thousands.
very quickly, and within 2 days, 3 days, everything
Yeah.
was then walked back. But I agree with you. I don't think that didn't end it. I mean, clearly, because like 2 days later, that Ghost of Tsushima thing came out saying, and I guess if you wanted to play online or whatever, you'll need a PlayStation Network account. So inevitably, as they start probably doing day and date stuff, they're going to require people to sign up for PlayStation because it helps their numbers. That's really all that is.
Well, it's also like, yeah, you're adding somebody to the ecosystem. That's all
Yeah.
it is. But the issue is the reason these countries don't have it is because either the terms and conditions are not favorable or whatever the case may be. And so the terms and conditions are probably the reason why PSN is not.
So you're
in
like
those
IP
countries.
locked out. Like your IP just can't go to the website.
Well, it's if you want to use PCN or PlayStation Network Services, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Whatever. You have to agree to their terms, right? And
Oh,
so
I got you.
So if you want to be on that PlayStation Network, you have to agree to terms. And so if you don't, and it's not allowed, then because Steam, obviously, their terms and conditions is buy the game. You technically own the game until the game, until the publisher dies or something, and then it's all over the world,
Right.
anywhere, everywhere. I don't think it's a good plan for Sony. I mean, I get it, but those numbers are artificial and people are going to know the game is, it's not like magically they're not going to know that it's a Sony game.
Yeah, I don't understand that decision either. I just don't. Seems unnecessary.
I think they want to do is for online play, right? So like Ghost of Tsushima is going to have an online.
But yeah, it's had an online mode. It's like a live service X mode. I think it's
right.
Anyways, it's not anything to write home about. It's not bad, but it's not like some sort of groundbreaking mode.
Well, and but I think the point is they want everybody to be on that network and not the whatever the independent. Because right now on Steam, um, I don't think for Xbox games, I don't know if you need to make it. No, you don't. You don't need to make an Xbox account to play Xbox games on Steam. Do you? I don't
I
think you
don't.
do.
I don't even know if they're on there. Like, if I was to look up Gears of War, is it on Steam?
I mean, if it was released, yeah, it should be. Let me look it up right
No,
now.
it's
I don't
not.
know. It's not.
No, it doesn't exist on Steam.
I mean, I don't know. But anyways,
Halo,
the
Halo
game.
does, but I don't. I think when you buy Halo, no, you don't need to sign up for an Xbox account.
So I think that's the point. Is the point is like I think Sony wants people that are going to play online to be on the PlayStation network,
Right.
and similar to like having, like Blizzard has their own launcher, but it's not the only way to play, right? Um, so I don't think it's a good game plan. I think they're going to walk it back because the numbers are going to be bad. I mean, I think people are just. It's not even it's not directly impactful now, but I think the sentiment from the players are going to be like, well, I don't. This is anti-consumer.
Oh
We're
yeah,
not
right.
gonna we're gonna bomb it because X, Y, and Z. It's the same stuff that they've done with like the DRM, the
Oh
copyright stuff.
yes. Well, see, they still do DRM though. People still complain about it. So
Exactly, yeah, but it is what it is. It was removed.
it
The
was a fun thing to watch. Is really what it was. Really, the
well,
most surprising. I mean, at the end of the day, it won't be as such a big of a deal if a game is launching with it, and then people can just decide. The thing with Helldivers is just was already out, and
after the
then
fact,
people in these
yeah,
countries were playing the game, and then they were going to
right.
essentially have the game taken from them, which is like that decision makes no sense. Like that's ridiculous.
Well, and then he had like community managers telling everybody to just
Yeah.
get bad
Well, and then he
reviews,
got
and
fired.
yeah, he got fired, and I mean, it's whatever. Like
It's
the whole
whatever.
thing is, it's a nothing burger,
We'll gloss
really.
over it because it is kind of a nothing burger, but I thought it was worth kind of like discussing. In
But
other
internet,
news,
the internet's just like they like to over.
oh well, it's PlayStation fanboys too. I mean, like versus
Yeah.
PC people. I mean, like anyways, the whole console war thing is just insane now. But that's that's the industry's fault. And better news before we get into the most recent stuff. There is some stuff coming out. We did have the announcement and launch of the Diablo 4 new season, which is dropping next week. I got
Yep.
into the beta for Marvel Rivals, so I'm going to play that Friday, and I'll be able to talk about it next week. I'm really excited about that. I do think if you are into Diablo, that's going to be really huge. I think I sent you the video Friday. Like it's big change coming to Diablo. If you're a
Yeah.
Diablo fan, there's going to be a lot to do. They're really taking in all the things that people didn't like about the game, changing itemization, changing the ways that you can upgrade, changing your path to power, and then even adding in a new in-game mode that I think is almost infinite because it just continues to get harder. And if you continue to complete it, you continue to get resources to like masterwork your gear and things like these. So continuing to push into the live service and doing a really good job in that. And I think these changes that are dropping on Tuesday will be really cool to see. And we are a month out to final shape. Into the Light has been doing really well, which is exciting. Freddy's face is frozen if you are watching on YouTube, and that is okay. And I am excited for Into the Light. I'm a big Destiny person. I recently got back into it. That's why I'm tired. I was actually on a Pantheon run for 5 hours straight last night, but it was a lot of fun.
Of course you were. Of course you
Um,
were. I mean, I may or may not. I'm gonna download it and see if I can get back into it. It's been a couple years since I
what are we
really
talking about? Diablo or
yeah,
Destiny?
Destiny. I played Diablo just like a couple weeks ago.
Ah.
But Destiny is like I miss it, but I hate it. But I miss it, but I hate it. It's one of those like I hate you so much because I spent a billion hours, and then those billion hours equated to zero. Like that's really the grind. No, I mean, look, if it does well, if it comes out and it's
Yeah,
exactly what they want, that's fantastic for the team. That's redemption,
it's
and
good for Sony.
well, not so much. I think it's bad for Sony because they want the game to be
I
absolute
mean, I think you're right
trash.
too. I mean, yeah, they want to take
Yeah,
over Bungie.
yeah. There's clauses in those contracts. So I think Bungie wants to have the option to stay independent. This is not a permanent thing.
No,
Bungie has obviously ways to get out of this if they
Yeah.
wanted to. If it's not a good relationship, unless they fail.
Yeah,
There's
unless they fail and then Sony
right.
consumes them.
Num,
Um,
num, num, num,
okay,
so
so that was all quick, and I know because I really just wanted to get like to some of the happy-go-lucky stuff because I feel like we're gonna spend the remaining of this time on all sorts of shenanigans that has recently occurred.
I do want to bring up one little thing that I'm kind of looking forward to. It's a stupid game. I mean, not stupid. I take it back. It's kind of a nothing burger game. It looks cool. I'm gonna play it. It's called Hypercharge.
Hypercharge. I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, and it's basically like they took all the your little
Hypercharge
it fit.
unboxed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, just Hypercharge. It's pre-order. It's for Xbox. I think it's only for Xbox and PC right now. But it's basically like all the action figures when you're a kid
Yeah,
become.
hypercharge unboxed.
Oh, maybe it was called Unbox. I just know it's Hypercharged. But
Yeah.
it's like built-in, Unreal, and it looks cool. It's like
Oh my god, dude!
27
It
bucks.
looks like the movie we watched in the '90s, Toy Soldiers. Is that what it was
Yes,
called? Where the
yeah,
toys come to
that's
life?
very much the inspiration behind that and Toy Story. And it's like it looks insane for 27 bucks. I mean, even if it's like
Is it free on Game Pass?
no, no, it's 27 bucks on Xbox, but it's 24 bucks on Steam right now. But I think it's only multiplayer, and then they have a battle royale. But
It's a
like,
co-op shooter game with very positive reviews, and it's going to be a shooter based on, as Freddie said, toys coming to life.
yeah, it's awesome. I have like the video right now playing it. It looks awesome.
That
I mean,
does. That looks fun.
it could be terrible. It could be, but like for 27 bucks, I'll throw that money away. Worst case scenario, and it's a single guy. I think again, like one guy built this whole game.
Well,
So
it's already gotten reviews. I mean, it's got 3,318 reviews currently on Steam, and it's very positive. So
well, yeah, he gave out free like betas and stuff like that, and people were like, "This is so much fun." It feels good, and it's a little floaty like Destiny,
huh.
but yeah. So we'll see. I just thought
Oh,
I
now it has a
pre-ordered it.
story campaign. It's a
Oh,
first
really?
and third person shooter action figure game.
Oh, wow. For 27 bucks, dude,
Yeah,
that's a steal.
or
So, anyways,
24.99 on PC.
yeah, exactly. I'm getting it probably on. We'll see. I'm getting it on Xbox just because like it seems like playing a couch game, but we'll
Yeah. Oh,
see.
yeah. No, that looks great, and it even won some awards already for best multiplayer game from the Brazil Independent Games Festival, best multiplayer game from GWB, top 10 hidden gem from the Gamer. Oh my God, there's audio playing from it, and it's very loud. Sorry if anybody heard that.
Now,
Epic Games Dev Grant, Silver Gross Revenue, Steam Award, Editor Choice Award from NDDB, Best of 2020 on Steam. I'm assuming that was probably for a early access or the demo that's currently out right now. You can actually download a free demo on Steam
oh, nice.
currently. Cool.
Yeah, I just saw that and I was like, oh, you know what? My brother's been following it. I think there's some nostalgia and
Oh
some
yeah,
like.
for sure.
So yeah, we'll see how that plays out. Just to have a little taste of like, this is good.
This is good.
This is good. Right before we say this is all bad.
Well, none
So
of
I
it's all
mean,
bad. None of it's all bad. We'll jump right in. So the first
all
thing I
right.
thought was really funny. So in case you also been living under a rock, there's a lot of things happening. Obviously, continuing our run here, firings, dissolvings, people moving around, etc. That we just had a big one come out of Microsoft. That was for Arcane Austin. That was for. Let me get all of the names. Where is it?
I know. So
You know
it's
them?
yeah. So Arcane Austin, Alpha Dog, and then we'll talk about each individual
Tango.
studio. Uh, Roundhouse and
Tango.
Tango. Right.
So
So
those all got the axe. And
so
out of that, obviously, a lot of discourse, a lot of people who were angry. People took the Fallout 76 and they nuked Phil Spencer's camp.
I
Poor
know,
guy. It's trending on Twitter. People are like standing in front of his camp and it's on fire. And I'm just like, do you really think Phil Spencer cares that you nuked his camp in Fallout 76?
He probably has people playing for him, dude.
I
Like I
know.
don't know. He's a busy guy, but let's put it in context, okay?
So let's start
So
there.
like, okay, so Tango, right? Tango, the creator of the studio left, right? Right after Hi-Fi was completed, left, and then a lot of people either left or some of them joined with them. It was a skeleton crew, from what I understand. Um,
Oh yeah,
that
you're
was
talking about the
remaining.
reasonings. Yeah, so I've got some bullets for you to keep into your mind. According to Rebs Gaming, Microsoft shut down Tango Games and Arcane Austin because Microsoft owns ZeniMax. Obviously, we know that they're the
Right.
parent
Yep.
company of Tango Games, Arcane, Bethesda, and more.
Yep.
So the head of ZeniMax said that they were actually about to collapse because they were
Yep.
supporting 9 studios with a lean central team. Tango and Arcane were looking to actually hire additional
Right.
staff as they pitch new projects, which Matt Booty suggested was the main factor behind their closures. They closed down Tango and Arcane to allow ZeniMax to put more focus on fewer projects and avoid collapsing. It's kind of like one segue that people didn't really talk about on top of
Well,
what
yeah,
Freddie is saying right now.
yeah. So that was kind of leading to it. So right. So like the skeleton crew at Tango was basically that was left over to create the PlayStation port, right? And once that crew was done, they were pitching games, and to pitch those games, right? They were going to pitch a new like a sequel to the Hi-Fi, and then for Arcane, they're like some sort of simulator,
Same
similar to
thing in
like
a
yeah,
Dishonored game.
yeah, Dishonored. Well, it was a sim type
No,
of
no,
Dishonored game.
and a Dishonored game. There's
Oh, it
two
was
games.
both.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But they were requiring additional staff, right? And ZeniMax hasn't. I mean, ZeniMax is so overbloated, like as a company. That's why they were bought for $7 billion, folks. Like you talk about how many studios are under ZeniMax for $7 billion. There's absolute reason for that. Is because they are way over bloated and underperforming. I mean, that's why Microsoft came in. And all these games that were slated were already in development. So
Right,
so basically at this point, I think it's a new slate, right? All the games that were pre-slated are already done. Right? Now
right.
it's all
Or
net
there
new
are there
games.
whatever they were working on we don't know about.
Right, right.
And just to
Or they're still
continue, what?
no, just saying or they're so early in development, right? But
Right,
the fact is like a lot of these studios haven't really produced anything that even remotely made any money, even if it
right,
was on Game Pass or wasn't, right? Like Deathloop was not I mean, it was a success when it comes to like critics liking it, but it didn't sell great on PlayStation, and it was kind of overlooked on Xbox because it wasn't great. Like I didn't I played it. I spent a couple of hours, maybe like 6 hours playing that game, and it was just like, okay, it's cool, but it's kind of boring. Like
no,
it
I mean
wasn't.
it wasn't for me, but I mean it was a critical like massive. I mean it got tens. It was some people's like
No, I
you
agree
know
with you, but I don't agree with those numbers. Like just because it got a 10 doesn't mean it's a success, right? And it
yeah.
cost a ton of money. And then you had Redfall, cost a ton of money. They lost probably over $200 million in that game. And then you had Alpha Dog, who made Mighty Doom, which I actually thought was fun, but it wasn't a game that was gonna. It wasn't a Diablo-esque game, right? On
Right.
on mobile, it was a mobile game,
That's a mobile
and
game.
then
Yeah.
and then Roundhouse never actually produced anything. They were just a support studio, and they were
Well, yeah.
they were
So
actually
there's more on that too. So that and then this again, there's more facts from Boss Sean, which is reaffirming everything that Freddie actually just mentioned, anyways. But I'll just go through it, and that's Microsoft, Xbox, Bethesda was profitability restructuring. 3 studios shut down, 1 studio reassigned. That's Roundhouse Games, and what he had
yep,
said. Arcane Austin was shut down. Some employees though were kept. 70% of the Arcane Austin staff who worked on Prey, which everybody's like, oh man, like that's Prey, like that was really good. In 2017, actually left the studio during the development of Redfall. So 70% of the staff actually pieced out during Redfall. Some members of Arcane Austin were actually assigned to other studios, and then obviously Redfall players who purchased the Hero Pass as part of their premium edition are going to be getting refunds for that. For Tango Gameworks, which was shut down, the founder, like Freddie said, actually left Tango and took most of his staff, and that game did not sell well, but it was critically acclaimed. Alpha Dogs, like Freddie just said, Mighty Doom, it was not successful, and it actually is going to be shut down August 7th. And then the last one, which is Roundhouse Games, actually wasn't shut down. Like Freddie said, they were a support studio, and they actually just shifted all of them to work on Elder Scrolls Online.
yep. So
So when you look at it that way, it's like, oh,
it makes sense. I mean, look, at the end of the day, the reason these studios got bought, Activision got bought, it's not because they're overly successful, right? Like they have successful IPs, but at the end of the day, there's some bloated staffing and poor management across the board, right? I mean,
Yes.
you look at just Blizzard, right? What they've done recently, better, but like generally speaking, it's a massive company. They make good money, but they're not as profitable as they could be. And so under Microsoft, because they have the resources, because they have like support staff, I think the idea overall is to have a complementary studio relationship with each other so they can help each other make games and I don't think it's a. I mean, look, at the end of the day, anybody losing their job sucks. But like for Arcane Austin, I feel bad for them because I live in Austin, but I don't feel bad for them because the CEO of Microsoft told them, "You have 1 year to turn this game around." That year came and went. They didn't
Well,
even
yeah.
release
I mean,
the.
even beyond that, though, if you go back like to that previous thing, like when I saw that, I just don't. I mean, again, it's like you said, like nobody, you don't want anyone to lose their jobs. But when 70% of a studio who made the games everybody likes, where they're like, oh god, I mean, there goes Prey, there goes like they were gone, y'all. Like they were already gone. Like those
Yeah,
people clearly looked at Redfall and was like, I don't like this. Like that's so. But the only thing I would say that is a bad look, and that's the Tango deal, and that's only because it's only because of all the stuff that like Phil has said and other people have said about like the want to invest in big AA games that do really well. Well, I mean, Hi-Fi Rush was a AA game that was really good, but it just didn't sell very well. And there's a really good Paul Tassi article that I shared with Freddie actually earlier today, where he talks about like the concerns for Hellblade 2, because it's almost in a very similar situation where it's a small studio making a very expensive AA game that is just probably not going to sell very well, but it's going to be critically acclaimed. And
actually,
what does that mean?
it has a lot of similarities because guess what happened to once the game got finished? What happened to the owner, the original director of the studio?
Oh yeah, he
Remember,
left.
I sent you videos. The
Yeah,
guy is on the ship with like
yeah,
70
he
women.
pieced.
Yeah, he's like, I
and,
made a bunch
and
of
that's why
money.
Paul Tassi like wrote it, because it's just kind of like they say
But
these things,
but the difference is
but
though, I think is this depending on how the game looks, right? If the game looks incredible and it is a showpiece for Microsoft, I think they double and triple up the studio. I think it depends because at the end of the day, Tango
I mean,
did
I
not
guess,
make.
but it doesn't seem like there's a lot of faith in a game when the advertising for it is donk
Well,
right
I
now.
agree with you, but apparently, I mean, they've never Xbox as a whole, Microsoft as a whole is very bad at advertising.
They
Like
are,
you look at the
but
competitors. No, look at the competitors, right? Like Microsoft has all these things, right? Office, Windows, their own computers. Their advertising their advertising department compared to Apple's is like it's like a sardine compared to a beluga whale.
no,
Um,
I mean, I agree with you, and that's
look at
why,
Sony.
but
No,
that's why it's
well,
like, so like for the two paragraphs I want to read to you, because you probably didn't have time to read it yet, but this is the context that I
no,
think Paul
I read the whole
Tassi hit.
thing.
Okay, well, it's this. There's these two. The problem with Hellblade 2 is that it's probably not being set up for success with Microsoft, seemingly, right? That's basically saying, based on perception, sky high expectations they have for these smaller games. Where the last Hellblade 1, actually in the 4 years it was out, only eclipsed 6.3 million players, and that's not sales. That includes Xbox, PlayStation, PC, Switch, and the Game Pass. So Hellblade 2 is not an Elder Scrolls, it's not an Elden Ring. Despite its exceptional production value and melee combat, it's not even remotely close to these type of games. And as a narrative-driven, smaller scale experience, it may follow the path of something like Alan Wake 2, which was hugely critical acclaimed, but struggled to even break even with its budget. Now, it's unclear how Microsoft even measures success for games like Hellblade when it's offered day one on Game Pass, and it's not even asking most players for an outright purchase. So the idea of Game Pass is that if you like a game and you want to keep it forever, you may purchase it before or after playing it. But as a one-off, relatively brief narrative experience, there's little reason for almost anyone to do that with Hellblade. And so,
So I would agree with you, except the fact that it is a incredibly cheap game. It's $40, right? Then number one. Number two, the first game was created by an indie studio. Like it was a tiny studio, and you played it. I played it. Like it wasn't a bad game, but it didn't have the theatrics of this. So I think the metric is how much praise. If this game comes out and is like the flagship for Unreal Engine and uh, basically
It still would come down to money though. I mean, because again, if
no,
you,
no, no,
Hi-Fi
that's
Rush
not
was
true.
praised. It is
That's not.
literally praised, but they
But
killed the studio.
no, they killed the studio because it was a skeleton crew, and they would have to hire more people to release another AA game. That is the issue with. I mean, that's really the. I mean, you even said it.
I mean,
The
it did.
this. So the same thing with Arcane, right? Arcane was 70% of the crew that made the good games left. So like, and the product that they created after the fact was terrible. And then that's not. Those are different but the same, right? Skeleton Crew that made a AA game that was incredibly successful, ported a game and said, "Hey, we want to make a sequel, but we have to hire a bunch of people." And then another studio that said, and then the other side of it, this whole thing that nobody really is looking at is this is all because of not the individual studio, but the owner of the studio, right? Because Microsoft doesn't necessarily run the day to day
Well,
of
yeah, right.
ZeniMax. So ZeniMax was literally your words about to collapse.
Yeah.
And Microsoft said, "Hey, get your shit together." And they had to figure out how to minimize the impact. And they looked at all their studios and said, these are the ones that are going to have to require more hiring. They're the build cycle is going to be 4 to
Well,
6
yeah.
years before we
So we canned
return.
it, trim the fat. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
exactly.
I just
So
don't think Hellblade. I don't think they shut the studio down, but I don't see Hellblade exceeding that 6 million number, even if it's a showcase, because it's still the same game, and that is a hard game to play. That is not a game for everyone. It's just not. That game
it's not the same
is
game.
like
It's not the
yes it
same game.
is. It's
How
very
is it
much
the
the
same
same
game?
game. That's all
It's
they've
not
talked
though.
about. It is a direct sequel. They're still
is a
doing
Yeah,
doing all the weird sound things. They're still
of course.
playing into the
Yeah. I mean, that's the
psychotics of
experience.
it. That is not a fun experience. That's not a game. Dude, I like the first Hellblade. I'm not gonna say I didn't like it. You will never play it again. That is not a replayable game. It is not something I ever want to experience again. And I do
Okay.
agree with like Paul Tassi that I think like it will not exceed 6 million. It's not going to do better than the first game because the audience
don't-
isn't there.
I don't agree. I mean, there's literally 35 million, 30 to 40 million Game Pass subscribers.
Yeah,
right?
but they could easily get into the first one right now, which still looks good, but it's just not for them. Like the
Well,
audience for
but
that game is not very big.
That game was like 10 years old, dude. What are you talking about? Like, who's gonna go back and play the old library?
That game's
Not a
only
lot of
5
people.
years old. It's not that old.
No, it's not 5 years old, dude. 5 years old? Are you
Or
out of your mind?
I actually don't know
Well,
how
look,
old it is. How old is
it's
the
at
Hellblade
least
one?
it would have to be at least 7 years old.
It's
'Cause we were
probably
like
7.
we were in I don't even remember, like 10 years.
7
I
years.
feel like
Yeah, it's 7 years. Came out in 17.
yeah. So like a lot of the players on Game
I mean, we'll
Pass are
see.
probably-
I don't think I think at most maybe it hits 8 million. Like it's not gonna. I don't think it's gonna be. But I don't think that means they shut the studio down. But I don't see them ever making it. I think like they need to take that studio and then leave that genre or do something within that that's not so niche. It's a
Well, I
hard game
mean,
to play. Like it's a weird fucking game to play. There's a lot of sounds. It's very like.
I mean,
because their whole idea
it's-
is to put a focus on someone who suffers from like a mental
what is it called?
schizophrenia. Yeah.
Schizophrenia, yeah.
Which is
I mean,
not
look,
a pleasant experience.
no, I get that, but I mean, like, there's some games that are not. I mean, when you play games like The Last of Us 2, phenomenal game, but that game is like when you spoiler alert, if you haven't played this in like 100 years, it's been released 700 times. So spoiler alert, when you kill,
Oh, that's great.
Joel,
The Last of Us 2 only sold 10 million copies. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think Hellblade's going to exceed The Last of Us 2.
yeah, but that 6 million copies over 7 years is what he was saying. That's not copies too. If you actually read the articles, not copies but players.
No, it's players. 6 million players. Yeah.
I think it will probably hit those numbers. I think faster, and I think it'll be forgotten. But I do think that it will probably win awards, and I think it will be a showcase for the console. That's really it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the best Microsoft can get out of this because the original budget wasn't massive. It's a small team, and I mean, look, to me, if like the people who made Unreal Engine use you as the model to showcase their engine, I feel like I'm pretty optimistic about how the game is going to look and perform. So we'll see.
We'll see.
I'm just not gonna. I'm not gonna. I just do think that it's a separate
I do think
independent
it's.
studio.
I just think it's weird that there's like barely any advertising. Like, and then they said like we're gonna advertise, and there's just like a picture, and it says like make 21.
So they Booty, whatever his name is.
Yeah. Yeah.
He
2 weeks.
tweeted.
Yeah.
They're doing a massive blast in 2 weeks, but I blew them up. I mean, I sent them like this. Xbox needs to fire everybody in the marketing department because they're absolutely terrible. Like this game is an easy sell, and it's the type of game that I would love. I like 8 to 10 hour games. Please give me more of them at $40. I will play them all day because that is a perfect.
Yeah, but I don't think like the cost is there though. Like
it depends. You don't know how much the game costs, right? It took a long time.
That we can figure out. Saga cost.
Yeah, because I don't think it's massive. I don't think it's like I just saw the numbers for I feel bad for Justice League. They're on track to lose $200 million.
No, that's WB as a whole. They're just like WB lost 200. They're 200 million in the hole, and then they just said that like a portion of that was due to the obviously failure of Suicide Squad.
I didn't say a portion. I think that they said
it was not the whole thing. No, it's literally he just said in an earnings call, WB blah 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 mentions how Suicide Squad was a hit to them in that whole $200 million loss report. I mean, it didn't sell well. I'm not going to sit here and defend Suicide Squad, but I also think like the metric of success for them is really weird because obviously Hogwarts was like one of the best selling games ever. So nothing's going to hit that number.
Hogwarts made like $2 billion. Like
no,
I don't feel bad for WB at all.
And somehow they're at a loss. So really weird.
I mean, they're probably at a loss because they're trying to not pay taxes. I mean,
anyways, so the first Hellblade was made under 10 million.
Yeah.
But so I'm trying to figure out.
I mean, the second one's probably made. I mean, I don't think it's made. I doubt. I think it's on a
200 million.
Where do you see that?
Neo Jab cost him 200 million to make this game.
$200 million.
Oh, here we go. This is better. I like Games Radar. I trust Games Radar. Let's see. Blah. We are working special. That's where Hellblade 2 comes in. I saw the number in here somewhere. I think it's at 117 million, which wouldn't be surprising because the game has literally been delayed and in development for like forever.
Yeah, so 100. What was it? 117 million.
Oh no, sorry. That's not it. No, that's just how much Microsoft developer Ninja Theory was acquired by Microsoft 6 years ago for 117 million. That's what Microsoft paid for them.
Okay.
It's definitely probably about 100 million. It's probably somewhere between 80 and 100 because the first team was only 20 people, and Hellblade 2 they took it from 20 to 100 people. So like they more than like what is that 3 times their size from 1 to 2.
I mean, it's all speculation. I think it's probably in about 100. I would say between 50 and 100 million. That's probably the budget. And so like if they sell, let's just say
they spent 75 days just recording mocap. So like it's probably $100 million game, which is still actually really cheap.
That's what I'm saying. So like for them to be successful, right? So like it's $40 for the game. So 100 million.
Yeah, but we don't know what Microsoft's metric for success is.
Well, so Phil Spencer, there was an email saying the reason they shut down studios generally is only 2 things, and it's never about profits. It's about if the game, the head of the studio leaves, which happens a lot, or the team
happened to Hellblade.
Yeah, but the difference with Hellblade again is like
he didn't like peace because of the games. He just retired.
He retired because he made $100 million.
Yeah, but why you're factoring all this in your mind too? We should take into account
2.5 million copies of the game to make $100 million.
Well, that had to buy it. Like, and how many? Like, Yeah, we'll see what happens. But there's another thing too on top of that I think is interesting, because supposedly what Phil Spencer and Xbox wants, they're what they are expecting is for Game Pass to grow to 110 million by 2030. So
I
that's
mean, so
insane.
I don't think it's insane if they have the products. And that's really, at the end of the day, it's all about product, because that's what, I mean, if you look at the model that Netflix did, right? Netflix had the way they started, it's exactly how Xbox started. They didn't have the content, right? So what did Netflix do? They went and got all these high profile TV shows like Friends and The
Yeah, but
Office.
you
Hold
can
on,
take
let me
L's though, in like 2 hours, hour 30. People are like, that was a bust. I'll wait for the next one. It's a lot harder to take that L on a game. Like 60 hours, I'm never playing that shit again. Like Microsoft doesn't have it. I'm done.
Well, what I'm saying is the model is to replicate that. Go find games that are good, put them on the console that are third party, pay the money,
Right.
and then slowly start building your studios up. Now, now it's time when you're supposed to have these 4 to 8 bangers it might be 4 AAA titles and 4 AA titles every year, and if they're good, like they don't have to be absolutely great, because Netflix is not
See, I
doesn't have.
disagree. I think they do.
No, they don't.
That's what I was telling you, because it's not like Netflix. An hour and a half movie can fail and you won't be mad at Netflix. You cannot fail at a game. You will lose so many people. Like I was saying, like this next 4 years, like Avowed and Indiana Jones and all these, they can't fail like that, because that's like, well, I'm dead. You are dead to me. Like you can't make it. You seem like you can't
But,
make a
but,
game, and it
yeah,
doesn't help that you're playing from behind too, right? Like you're batting
but,
under average. So
but again, my point is that not every single one needs to be a hit, dude. You
I
just
mean, I
need
think it
one or
does,
two.
because you're talking about third party games too. But I
Okay.
mean, like you can just sign up for Ubisoft or EA Pass and not even bother with Game
Yeah.
Pass and just get those
Yeah.
games.
Except the fact that Ubisoft only has literally these 4 types of games,
Yeah, I
and then
know.
EA only has
But
so you're if you're
me and
buying
you
all
both know
these.
people aren't buying Game Pass games. Like I think it will come down to the exclusives and how well and how good they are to push people to Game Pass. And there has to be at least like,
I
I mean, in
disagree.
my opinion, I think all four have to be so good that people are like, I want to go buy Game Pass so I can play these 4 games for free.
So I think initially, yes, they have to be very good games. The first 4 have to, but it's going to be a driving force. My point is, if Indiana Jones is spectacular, amazing, tens across the board, lot fun to play, all the things, and Avowed is good, and Hellblade is okay, like that, Indiana Jones might carry the load, right? That's what
Maybe,
I'm.
maybe it's single player. It's like a one and done too. So you could just be like, I'll just buy the game. And
So Microsoft has a bunch. I mean, Sony has a bunch of single player games. It's not necessarily about the single game, right? It's about having the variety of games, and then the growth happens when you have the things that people want. That's it.
yes, I mean, yes.
And you have to advertise. Microsoft is absolutely terrible at explaining what Game Pass is, what the benefits are. I mean, I've seen him like maybe a couple times on Power
I feel
or
like I only
whatever.
see it advertised at game shows.
Yeah, exactly. Like Sony does so
I
well
don't think I've
because
ever seen a Game Pass ad.
like people watch football all the time. You know what I see all the time is Sony ads for everything. Like
Well, yeah.
and then Microsoft is sitting here like, oh well, we're just gonna do the buses and we're gonna do like some Facebook like, dude. If you want your ecosystem to grow, you have to advertise what your ecosystem provides, not just the games, because literally this whole year Sony's been still selling all the consoles, right, with no games. And you know what these people are playing? They're playing Madden, or they're playing
Call of
NBA
Duty.
or Call of Duty. Like, these games are not first party games, but Sony's sitting here like, hey, you like football? Well, guess what we have? We have a football
We have
game called
Madden.
Madden. And then
Exclusively
you would never know
on
that was
every
exclusive.
console.
Like, literally on everything, on mobile and everything. But Sony does such a good job of like telling people,
Oh
hey,
yeah,
this
dude.
is where you can
I mean,
play.
their handheld is always sold out, and that handheld doesn't do anything. That handheld's literally just like
It's a remote
will
play.
turn on your PlayStation and play it on here, but it sells like crazy.
Yeah, I
It's
mean, I don't think Microsoft is in the they're not, they've never been good at selling hardware.
no.
That's never been the but they were good at selling software for a long time, right? Like
Yeah.
Office and Windows are still the number one
Well, they
platform.
used to be really good at selling games too.
Yeah, yeah. I think the problem, again, we talked about this. The problem with the games
Yeah,
is
I
not
know. We
the
have to wait.
game.
But the thing is you have to acknowledge people are done waiting.
That's the
So
yes. It takes
that's
five
all
to
this
six
Phil
years.
Spencer hate and firing part. Like, people don't care. People are just mad because they're just tired of waiting. Like they just want a win. Like they want to feel like they have a win. They want to feel like, as somebody who keeps investing in Microsoft, I want to feel like I won.
No, I
And
agree. No,
they
I mean,
haven't
and
gotten it.
well, and then they're also giving out games to others. I
Well,
think.
yeah, and Hellblade's going to go on PlayStation, 100%.
Well, maybe it depends.
I don't think Hellblade hits the. I don't think Hellblade even gets close to 6 million players without going onto PlayStation.
I mean, it might go on PlayStation after the fact, but not. I don't think it's gonna. It's gonna be basically.
Matter of fact, I honestly think people should just buckle up, because like as much as like Phil Spencer talks and where the industry is, which we talked about earlier, like and Microsoft isn't PlayStation, like they're a business company, like they're gonna go multi-plat on probably a lot of their games. Like I think 5 years from now, there's gonna be like, which I've already said, I also don't think is really a great idea because exclusive sell hardware. But I mean, you said it, and so I'll just continue. I'll back it up. That like, yeah, I mean, like 5 years from now, you're probably gonna see like 80% of Xbox games on PlayStation.
I don't think it's just by. I think if you expect just Xbox to do that, I think you're mistaken.
I do. I don't think Sony
No.
cares. Because
Sony 100% cares, dude.
that's how they push hardware. Like I think they'll
No,
do something
dude.
hardware wise.
They have literally shifted focus. Like literally, if you go listen to their the new leadership,
It'll
because
be on PC. It's not going to come to Xbox. They are not going to put their games on Xbox.
I think that they saw the success of what Xbox did, and I don't think that you're gonna. I think
I don't think they care.
Listen. At the end of the day, Sony's a publicly traded company, and the board dictates what happens, right?
It
so
does.
if they're but the reason Sony's trying to figure out a new game plan is they're not making enough money. Their studio is not making all their studios combined are not making enough. Their margins are
but
worse.
their costs are some of the highest too. So
doesn't matter. That's not the case. The cost is not part of the equation. The issue is their margins are razor thin, like razor thin. They lost a I don't remember how many, several, like 10
well, yeah, but
billion
if they're
dollars.
playing, I guess what I'm saying is, if you're playing chicken with Microsoft and you hear Phil Spencer and he's like clearly a guy who might push things to put things on all consoles, you win a hardware battle if you hold out and maintain and continue to make really incredible exclusive games, because then there is literally no reason to buy an Xbox if you can play all of the amazing Sony exclusives and let's just say 80% of Microsoft games on a PlayStation. People who can only afford one option are going to buy a PlayStation. And if PlayStation can rechange their structure on like how much money they lose on hardware, then they'll recoup a ton of cost. And the only reason I know you disagree, but I have talked to so many people. They just, every single person in my Discord, which is over 100 people, not a single one of them who isn't a part of Game Pass like wants to be in it. They do not care. Even if a good game was go on it, they'll just buy the game. They want nothing to do with Game Pass. Nothing.
Again, that proves my point. Is like it's like you keep repeating the same thing. Look, at the end of the day, if Microsoft has the best games, period. Like let's say they spend the money, they bought all these studios. The games are actually good, good games, new IPs.
Yeah.
If you get them on Game Pass, and the thing is, you're talking about these people that are on your Discord, which is fine, right? That's a very
screw the Discord.
Let me just finish.
Just factor in, since 2021, there's been no growth either. So,
but we talked about this too. Why is that, Brian?
There's no games, my guy.
Exactly. Thank you. So the point is, if there's no games, you're not going to have growth. If there's no games, you're not going to have hardware growth at all. So what are they supposed to do, right? The game plan here is to, and this Phil has said this several times. They're going to case by case figure out, hey, how to recoup money until these games come out. That's literally, look at like Max, look at like the streaming services like HBO Max, look at Peacock. These studios before they were able to produce their own content, they leased out their IPs, right? They put those IPs on a different platform. Netflix had Friends,
Well,
The
yeah, but
Office.
I feel like now
Hold on.
yeah, I feel like now you're banking that their IPs outperform Sony's in this.
No, I'm not. I'm not saying that. I'm saying
Well,
that
because well, I guess what I'm saying, wait, are we in this timeline considering that 80% of games are also being sold on PlayStation? Yes or no?
80% of games are not being sold on PlayStation.
No, no,
It's PC.
in this future, because that's all I was saying. I was saying if you're Sony and you're looking at Phil Spencer, who seems like the kind of guy who will 100% just multi-plat 80% of his exclusives.
I don't think it's going to be 80%. I think it's going to be, like I said, I think it's going to be a case by case depending on the type of game, right? And it's going to change as their portfolio gets bigger and smaller, right? Like that's kind of why I'm going with the Netflix analogy, right? Netflix had a service that didn't have any new content. They had a couple of TV shows that were okay, and then they got all these big IPs. They paid a bunch of money, and that's what these other Max did that. So did Peacock. And once Peacock and Max and all the other studios were able to create new content, they pulled those IPs out and put them back on their platform, right?
Right.
It's a little different because it's
Yeah,
not
but
apples
you
to
were telling
apples.
me you thought because of game cost and everything else, exclusives will be mostly foregone for the cost of especially how well Sea of Thieves, etc. did.
Well, I think it depends on cost, right? If you're Sony and you spent nearly $350 million on a Spider-Man game, and that Spider-Man game barely recouped its money after marketing costs, your shareholders are gonna be like, well, what's the point of pay? And you have to share that profits with Disney. Like you're sitting here like all these IPs outside of the few that I own 100%, right? I have to pay back, and we're not making enough money. So the idea is eventually, when the costs are only going to balloon more, you think costs are going to drop? No, man. I mean, there's not.
No,
That's
they
not
are. But see, that's what I'm saying. You're literally talking about the tug of war of gaming, because then
no.
it's
But
like
you're talking about Sony doesn't have to worry about that. And I'm saying they do. They don't have the luxury that Microsoft
no,
has,
I
which
think
is
they're both playing the game of who's gonna move their games over.
no. I don't think
Regardless of what happened, there's a hardware war. Like there's hardware.
it's always been there.
People want
But
their
this
hardware to be bought, right? You have two
when
studios who are making
hold
big
on, hold
games.
on.
Like
That used to be the case, right? That used to be the case where the hardware is the hardware is what they were promoting. That's what Sony was saying. Literally, if you go back to listen to the new president, was basically saying the idea that we need to push hardware is a fallacy because
I mean, I
we're
guess they're
making.
pushing
Hold
a new
on.
one already, dude. They're pushing a new PlayStation
You
5.
know why? Go listen to the Foundry. What they said about the console. You know what they did? Go look at the console. I want you to go look at the specs. You know what they did? They
Yeah, I already
matched.
seen it. We talked
They
about the
matched.
specs.
They're not. No. They tested it and it came back. It's not RDNA 2. It's RDNA 1.5, which is literally what the Xbox has already. So like it's not a brand new.
Yeah,
It's
but either way,
nothing.
it's not needed. So, but they're gonna push it anyways.
No. It's needed to have parity. That is the issue. Is parity. That's why
Parity with what though? There's like the
it
games on PlayStation look better than Xbox.
has nothing, dude. The parity about the development cost. If you're going to do a game for two consoles, you want it to be able to port easily. And that's the issue. Is porting easily is not the case, especially when you don't use the same architecture. Okay? So when you're both on RDNA 1.5 and not 2, and you up your GPU,
Yeah, but that doesn't solve anything though, because now that just your argument is basically they're making a console hoping everybody replaces their PlayStation 5 because there's still going to be a parity issue when the majority of
no.
players are still playing on
No,
PlayStation
but
5.
but basically they're going to replace the current one with the new one. I don't think there's going to be a price increase at all. I think it's going to be the exact same cost, or the old console gets dropped because there's a lot of flaws with the original console, right? There's
Yeah,
like that
but
whole.
what I'm saying is like the 30 million, 40 million people who have a PlayStation 5 aren't going to jump on a new one. You're not even. I bet you don't even see but a 15-20%. Like so, they're still going to have the disparity.
I don't think it's even that. I think I know, but long term, and they also made the die smaller, so it costs less. So it's all about. But my point is across the board is historically the cost of games are going to go up, and people are not going to buy more hardware. Like they plateaued. Like everybody has plateaued. That is the reason why the industry is consolidating. Like when you plateau and you do not have growth, because the PlayStation network has not grown at all, and so does Xbox. It has not grown, and Ubisoft's hasn't grown. Nobody's subscription has grown because there's two. It's just similar to Netflix and you have to go Netflix, and you have to go Max, and then you have to Disney Plus and Hulu and all. Like eventually you plateau because there's just too much. So the only way for you to make more money is you have to at some point, especially when your costs are ballooning. Look, if you're north of $500 million for a game and it does not do well, you are in a financial ruin. Like that is and for Sony, they don't have the luxury of losing $1 billion. Like if they lose $1 billion because their live service games are not doing well, like they're not going to have, they can't rely on the rest. Like their computer sector sucks. Their TVs are not selling. They're high-end TVs, so they sell their niche. The only thing that keeps them afloat is music and entertainment.
Well,
so
but either way,
if they don't,
I'm just like there's a like the whole point of my argument is like the big exclusives. Just within 5 years, you're not going to see. But I don't think you see any of the God of War. Like maybe God of War if it's done. Like maybe the old games, like you were saying. Maybe you'll get God of War 1, 2, and 3 on Xbox or something. But
yeah, that's what Xbox did too, though. I mean, like the games that they ported over outside of.
outside of what they're
Hi-Fi,
currently doing, or if this rumor comes out that they move over Hellblade 2, like they're putting newer games over on PlayStation.
I think if to me, I think this is kind of a test to see how the market reflects, because now they're the number one publisher in the world, right? Microsoft does. They have more games than any other studio, more studios that have high-profile games.
Yeah,
that have high-profile games.
Yeah,
than any other
it seems like more problems because Perfect Dark's got issues, and it's just like, oh my god.
Yeah. I mean, but again, all these. So the studios, Microsoft just took on so much in so little time. Like you have to think about it. 10 years, they've added a billion. Not a billion. I think 15 new studios.
Well, I mean, yeah, they did what they needed to do.
But what I'm saying at the end of the day is Sony's going to have to do similarly. I don't think if they have one bomb. No, not maybe. It's a financial dude. They go look. Their margins are razor thin. They're not. The console does not make them money, right? The only thing that makes them money is the games.
I think they'll see the first thing we'll see is day and date on PC long before anything goes to Xbox.
I agree, of course. I agree
like
with that.
Which could that mixed with like figuring out how to cut costs, because they have to cut costs. Like they do have like ballooning video game production costs.
Though, because the reason they won't and they will not is because what Sony thrives on is these high production value games. Every single game.
But I mean, Ghost of Tsushima is a high production value game that costs significantly less than Spider-Man.
Yeah, but Spider-Man also is a IP that they don't own. It's a little
still
different.
Though. I mean, I think it was the marketing budget in Spider-Man more than anything. But I'm just saying, like, you can still have that production value without the balloon cost that they seem to be like putting on things.
I mean, it depends. I don't know. I just think, to me, I think in the next 5 to 10 years, slowly but surely, you're gonna start seeing every studio.
I mean, God of War Ragnarok only cost $200 million, so like they're not.
Yeah, but it's not a multiplayer game, and it's not a game that's going to print money. Like that's the other side of this whole thing, Brian. We talked about this. Is live service is what you said, right? Live service and free to play is the future, and the only way you make money is you have to have the player base. And if you look at games like Justice League, which is a pretty polished game that is cross-platform, and it bombed, right? So if you're Sony or you're Microsoft and you make a live service game, you're having the amount of people that can play your console to play the game. So I mean, that's why I think Bungie's doing Marathon, and that's why they are actually Sony is seeing great success with
this is interesting. So this is interesting. This is from I was just trying to see what God of War made, and this is an article from GameIndustry.biz. God of War Ragnarok drives 9.6 billion quarter for PlayStation. The numbers right now, that this is for 2023. sales are 3.14 trillion, 26.4 billion. It's up 13% year on year. The operating income for Sony is 428 billion, down 8% year over year. And the net income, 326 billion, 2.5 billion, down 6% year over year. Game and
Yep.
network services sales up 53% year on year.
Yeah,
And the
because
highlight
that's when
here
they
is
that's when they
Sony
added the
saw a healthy increase in sales compared to the same period the year before, which is attributed to a significant increase in its game and network services segment. For Q3, that segment saw its sales soar over 53%, which attributed to the increased hardware and first-party sales, with God of War Ragnarok having launched within that period. So that's why I'm saying, like, it'll be
But
a long time.
go look at the profitability between the three studios, dude. Or the three partners.
The
Number
game and
one,
network services sales is up 53%. So
doesn't matter. That's because that's when they added PSN. What I'm telling you though is go look at how much, who makes the most profit out of all the all the studios. I mean, all the companies. Nintendo's number one.
yeah, it's
With
Nintendo.
and number two is Microsoft with their shitty games. Number two is Microsoft, Xbox. And number three is Sony when it comes to profitability. That is the issue, right? If you're number three in profitability and you just did $1 trillion in sales, right? Like you're operating, you look at the overall, you're down 8%. And you added Bungie, which basically you're getting all the revenue from Destiny, and you're adding whatever. But anyways, I actually have to jump. I have a
Oh,
call
you
in
got work.
2 minutes.
All right.
Yeah, but that I mean, on that note, I'm
On
right.
that note,
You're wrong.
no,
And
Sony's doing an amazing job with their first party titles, like I just said. So
yes, except they haven't released one in, I don't know, a year, and we'll see if they come out anything
they
between now and
will.
the
They're
next
Sony and
quarter.
they're incredible. Freddie is wrong. All right, y'all. Next time around, we can talk more about money and video games. So if you guys make sure you guys like, subscribe, comment everywhere we are and everywhere you are to keep up with all the things and to
And
hear Freddie's ridiculous ramblings of
if
a
you agree with
madman
me,
who
if you
gets
agree
high
with
on
me or
peyote.
him, put comments and see what you think. I think it's gonna, all the games are gonna be everywhere. You're gonna play where
Oh,
you want.
I wish. That's never going to happen, though.
It's gonna happen.
No, it's not.
Uh, on
On
that
that
note,
note,
I'm right or
goodbye.
wrong. Bye.